Hey, welcome. So for this video, I'm going to be chatting briefly about the new Tower28 SunnyDays Tinted Sunscreen. Just to get into the product details a little, it retails for $30. It's got 14 pretty impressive shades. Broad spectrum, SPF 30, so that's great. I am strongly of the opinion that foundation or makeup in general with SPF is never going to be enough coverage. You still need like this much actual sunscreen, but I really like when other products still have sunscreen because you're just adding on more layers. And this might be a myth, but in my head sometimes I think like, oh, like this really emollient formula could be kind of, if I'm like buffing around a lot, is that removing my sunscreen a little? So I like it still when there is SPF in products. I strongly recommend still wearing sunscreen regardless. This is a pretty sheer, dewy, lightweight formula, pretty moisturizing, and I suppose that you could potentially apply enough to get like full coverage sunscreen and not look horribly masky, but then you would end up going through this 1 fluid ounce really fast. So yeah, long story short, still recommend a separate sunscreen. So this is the first base product launch of Tower28, and I think they've done a really nice job with it. I wanted to kind of just show how it went on my skin, how I would kind of compare it to a few other tinted alternatives, yeah, and thoughts on the release in general. So I guess just getting into how I put it on and how I like it. I have the shade 10 Larchmont, and that is the second lightest shade. I bought it in a winter shade for me, so I don't know, maybe I look a little ghastly. It's a little too light for sure, but I have other things that are a little too dark, so I figured like, oh, I'll mix and match. If you are typically around my shade, I might recommend purchasing the third lightest, which is 15 Melrose instead. I'll just throw that out there. But yeah, they have 14 shades that range from very pale to very deep, with like a pretty nice spectrum in between. I think as far as shade ranges go, we've definitely seen way worse, and because this is more of a tinted formula, hopefully everything in between is kind of covered, or more so like balanced out, because it does kind of let your skin show through. Anyways, I started out just squeezing some out and applying it in a light layer with my fingers, spread out really nicely. Then it actually had a little bit more coverage than I was expecting, and it was very like nicely buildable. You wouldn't be able to build it up to full coverage obviously, but like something around a light medium for me coverage is definitely doable. And I think with concealer you get a pretty perfected look. Like I look camera ready enough. With this I do have just this and a little bit of like just under eye concealer on. I don't have any thing trying to conceal my redness or blemishes. I went in with a damp beauty blender and then just kind of layered on a little bit more, and I found that it layered very beautifully. And I think that going forward my preferred method would probably be with the beauty blender. Just personally, I think it's just thick enough that the beauty blender works nicely. I think when formulas are too thin, which I'll mention some that I think fall into this category, I definitely prefer my fingers or a brush. But this one has enough oomph to it that I think it's fine using a beauty blender, which tends to be my preferred way if possible. So that's just a bit of background. I guess more background on me. I am oily, acne prone, but also dehydrated, very sensitive skin. So I can be prone to a little flaking. I think that this held up pretty nicely. It doesn't dry me out. It makes me look pretty luminous and healthy. There is like a tiny bit of flakiness on my chin that is not looking that flattering, though I don't think many other skin products I have would look flattering on this today. When I first applied it with my fingers, I noticed it was like picking up a few flakes, but then, you know, as with a lot of like foundation products, as it kind of wore and settled into my skin, now I don't really notice anything except for the rougher area on my chin for today. So yeah, I really like how this performed, how this looks, and it wears off really nicely as well. It feels really comfortable. I didn't set it at all, so I can still kind of feel that there is like if I go and touch my face, there's a bit of moisture that comes off. I'm not huge on that kind of thing, but at the same time, it's really nice, especially going into the winter season, because it just like my face feels nice and nourished right now. I haven't powdered or anything, so you can see that it definitely gives like a very healthy glow to the skin. And just getting more into like some logistics, I'm really impressed with this packaging. I just think it's so nice. I love a squeeze tube. I really like what they did here, where I just think that the like acrylic or plastic looks pretty sophisticated, but then this nozzle is like very neat and super easy to squeeze out from. Yeah, I just think it's like, I love that it's a squeeze bottle because one, it's very functional that way, and then two, I just think they kind of went a little step beyond, and it looks very sophisticated, and it's easy to keep clean, easy to use, all that good stuff. So I wanted to talk about how this compares to the MAC Face and Body formula, just because I was reading reviews. There's a lot of reviews on this out already, and people generally really like it. That's kind of what prompted me to pick this up as well as needing a tinted base product in my winter shade. And there was one review that was saying they find it very similar to the MAC Face and Body, which I don't exactly, but I can see where they're coming from. But that was the review that I was like, okay, I gotta try it, because for reference, I really like the MAC Face and Body. So here is some of the Tower28 Tinted Sunscreen. Here is some of the MAC Face and Body in the shade C2. This is more so my summer shade, obviously. My plan was kind of to mix and match both of these until it's like deep winter and I'm actually this pale. Sorry for the road noise. What was I gonna say? The MAC Face and Body does not have any SPF, so can't really compare it in terms of that, but I more so am using this product as a tinted moisturizer than as my base SPF, as I covered in the beginning of this video. So as you can see, they're both like quite liquidy formulas, but the MAC one is much more like drippy, droppy, wet. As I kind of spread it out, you can see it's like quite sheer, it's quite slidey, and then as I blend and blend, about now it gets to have like a bit of a tacky moment where it starts to kind of really grip to my skin and become one. The Tower28 is also liquidy enough. It's obviously sliding down, as you can see, but not as much as the MAC one, indicating that it's not quite as wet. And sorry, I should have focused earlier. As you can see, it's a little thicker and just creamier to feel, but it kind of does that similar thing where it spreads, and then it first spreads, but then as you blend it into the skin, it kind of settles down a little bit. It wants to stick in place a little bit more, and that's how you know you've like about reached the end of blending. And then both of these leave a glowy finish to the skin with a little bit of like moisture that you can still feel afterwards. So they are similar in performance and finish. I just think that this Tower28 one is initially a bit creamier, and that extra thickness and creaminess is what allows me to kind of appreciate using a beauty blender as opposed to with the MAC Face and Body. I pretty much only use my fingers or brush. I feel like it just gets soaked up way too much with the beauty blender. And I also think that the Tower28 formula does have more coverage on initial application, just because it is like a little bit thicker. Like if I want to reach the same amount of coverage with the Face and Body versus the Tower 28, I might have to use 2 layers of the Tower 28 but 3 layers of the MAC Face and Body, just to give kind of a reference. They're both sheer and buildable, just the Tower 28 one has a little bit more oomph in one go. It definitely feels more lotion creamy. I know I've used those words already, but yeah, those are my thoughts on the formula and how it compares. Just for another quick reference, like the Glossier one is way thinner than both in comparison. I only use this first super sheer layer on and I apply with my fingers. So as far as like tinted base products go, I figured I'd mention that as well. But all of my all of the ways in which the MAC Face and Body contrasts with the Tower 28 formula, the Glossier one does to an even greater extreme. Let me think. Was there anything else I really want to cover? Not really. I think that this is a really nice base product. I think even if you're oily, like my skin still looks very nice and like satin and hydrated. I really like how this is sitting because it's glowy, but it's not dewy or wet even. I feel like this is more of a, this gives less of an aggressive sheen than the MAC Face and Body does even. So I could see it working for a broader range of skin types. Yeah, just really happy with it. Love that it comes with the SPF. I think this will be, I also, as a side note, I didn't apply it like this today, but I do like how this mixes with my other tinted base product options. So it's really nice for that too, if you happen to have multiple things already. But on its own, it's great. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions. I hope this was helpful if you're interested and wondering what shade you should get at the very least. In my head, because I like things to be very sheer, my like spectrum of what counts as like full versus sheer versus medium coverage is pretty off center, but in my head this is like more of a light coverage than a sheer coverage necessarily. And you know, it's nice. Okay, I'll keep it at that, but let me know if you have any questions, and thank you for watching.